Hi everyone, it's Chenso from RealityArtPod, here to rank the Big Brother 27 players based on how I feel they're doing in the game as of the end of Week 10's Thursday night double eviction. Before I dive in, I put a link to my BB27 playlist for all my recaps and rankings. If you like the content, consider liking, subscribing, and using my link to try Paramount Plus for free. This week saw Vinnie the Lip coming to power in his third HOH. Morgan convinced him to nominate Lauren, but Lauren won the blockbuster and Kelly went home. In the double, Morgan won HOH, Keanu won the veto, and Morgan's dream came true when Morgan was sent to the house. Firstly, in 7th, we lost Kelly, who I had 5th last week, and 16th in my preseason rankings. I don't have too much to say about her gameplay this week. She was a non-factor in the events that happened and was barely on the TV show. If I had to rank the players this week based on gameplay, she would have been last had she survived. And Lauren in 6th, who was 7th last week and 7th in my preseason rankings. She came into this week the only player to never be nominated, and when her number one ally Vince won HOH, that seemed like it would last for another week. While Lauren had one big bad enemy in the game, Morgan, who's constantly working harder against Lauren than Lauren works for herself. Lauren could never put in the amount of work that Morgan did on Vince. When Vince tells Lauren he's basically going to put her on the block, she said no, 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 and no. I was impressed with her resolve, telling Vince that he couldn't nominate her. The problem is Vince would go back to Morgan and get convinced the other way every time, but Lauren never gave in and accepted it from Vince, even when he was eventually telling her it was going to happen. She even started giving veiled threats that their relationship would be over if he did it, and that she could retaliate, which is the best way to handle Vince, and is out of character for her, but after he nominated her, she gave up and was telling him that they could keep working together. So while there's a base understanding of what's going on, she was taken advantage of by Vince. In the doubles, she demolished the blockbuster, and for that reason, had she survived, I would have raised her up in the rankings, where I think the one thing this week did for her is garnish some respect in the game, but two bad competition results sent her out to meet Miss Julie. So let's get to the rankings of our final 5. In 5th, I have Vinnie the Lip, who last week was 3rd. He came into this week in between two groups. He wins the HOH and immediately is getting pushed and pulled like a rag doll. Morgan's putting the pressure on him to nominate Lauren, and he cries and plays the victim about it. I say all the time, I am not a victim because I put myself in crazy toxic situations, and Vince needs to adopt the same motto. This all could be avoided if Vince told Morgan, I'm not putting Lauren up, I made up my mind, there's nothing you could say to change my mind, so stop bringing it up or leave my room. Period. Problem solved. But he's so weak and allows this to happen to him. And okay, if you're gonna nominate Lauren, don't go to Lauren and ask for permission. But he does, again putting himself in a bad spot because she says no. What was he wanting her to do? Offer to go on the block when she knows she'd get voted out? So then he doesn't initially. And after Morgan wins the veto, when he's telling Lauren that he's actually going to put her up, but don't worry, Morgan's gonna vote to keep you. To me, that was the single moment where Vince lost Big Brother 27. The look of horror in Lauren's eyes as she realized that her game was over and her ally was a fool. He let Morgan take over his HOH and nominated his own ally. The jury watching that, they're gonna think he's such an idiot. Lauren only stayed because she won that competition, and then Morgan evicted Lauren herself. Now Lauren's going to the jury to tell the group all about how horrible this week was for her, and I just don't see how Vince beats any of the remaining players in a jury vote. With all that said, I think he's most likely to win an endurance HOH, which would give Morgan a record 3 HOHs in a row. In 4th, I have Keanu, who was 4th last week. Keanu had a pretty good week on the Keanu scale. Most of his week is campaigning against Lauren, which gained him favor with Morgan and Ashley, and he survived being on the block for a vote against Kelly, which is wild. He saved himself in the double and does end up voting with Ashley to evict Lauren, which achieves the sole thing he was trying to accomplish this week. With all that said, Morgan and Ashley were using Keanu to achieve that mission, and now I think they're pretty much done with him. Ashley has Ava as her +1 and Vince has Morgan, and to some degree, Ashley and Morgan have each other, but Keanu's at a dance party where everyone has a partner but him. I guess the move is to make something happen with Vince, who he sees as a bro to him, and I think he does beat Vince in a final 2, which has him above Vince here, but I think Keanu is highly at risk to be evicted this week. In 3rd, I have Ava, who last week was 6th. As usual, she spends a lot of time in bed. She gets nominated by Vince, doesn't try not to be nominated, but that would have been a waste of time. She does have a conversation with Morgan that gets her saved with the veto, which is positive, and her being not so good at competitions makes her tempting to bring a bit further, but again, her not being good at competitions makes me feel like she's playing basically for 3rd place. With Kelly and Lauren going, she's got 2 more locked jury votes, and she has wills, so she's one of the biggest jury threats on the board, but I think she's got the toughest road ahead to get there on social game alone, where most of her allies are in the jury house. In 2nd, I have Ashley, who last week was 2nd. I was so impressed with Ashley through the week. She worked behind the scenes to keep Morgan on track to target Lauren, and continued to work on her relationships, especially with the players who are still in this top 5. Lauren and Kelly leaving is great for Ashley. It brings Ava closer to her. She pushed her agenda successfully, and everyone in the game are still sleeping on her and have no clue what she's doing. I was really tempted to put her first, but the fact that the other players don't see what she's doing is going to make it hard for her to claim these moves in the end. If she gets to the final 2 and says she's a lawyer and was playing dumb the whole time, they might not believe her. She needs to win some competitions or make some moves that she can claim to have a better shot at winning, but I like what I'm seeing. And in 1st, I have Morgan, who last week was also first, she dog-walked Vince through this HOH, applying a pressure campaign and working her ass off to do the unthinkable and get Vince to nominate Lauren. I questioned her motives, where it seemed like she was only doing this to get Lauren nominated because Lauren had never been nominated, and that's it, where at some point she was down to keep Lauren. But what would have been the point of all this if Lauren didn't go? If Lauren was a huge jury threat, I would understand, but Lauren's not a very respected player. And when Lauren survived the first eviction, I was ready to put Ashley in first. After all that, if Lauren stayed, it would be so bad for Morgan. But then Morgan wins the HOH, nominates Lauren herself, and she either loses or lets Keanu win the veto, and gets Lauren out of the game, achieving the goal she worked so hard for. Kelly leaving was good for Morgan too, and Morgan's currently the frontrunner. With that said, she's a huge target. I'd be interested to see what she does as a nominee. The two-nominee format will give her plenty of time to advocate for herself. I have hope, but hope is a dangerous thing for a YouTuber like me to have. So those are my rankings for week 10. I'm sure they're different from yours. Let me know in the comments what yours are. I read and respond to every comment. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing. I'll be back on Wednesday with another BB recap. Until then, you know where to find me. Bye.